Hey everybody, CardBandit here today, and in this video we're going to be learning how to toss cards up and catch them in your hand, hopefully without dropping them all over the place. So hey everybody, CardBandit here, and with this episode of Card Smarts we're going to be going over variations on arm tossing and how to arm toss. Now, I wouldn't say I'm an expert on arm tossing, disclaimer, but I do know how to do some very basic ones, and I feel like I should be able to teach you at least the basics on how to do some arm tosses and catches and give you my perspective on it. So hopefully you find this useful, and let's get into it. So the first arm spread and catch we're going to be going over is the one where you've got them on the back of your arm. You toss them up and you catch them in the same hand. I find this is the one I catch myself doing more frequently, just because doing the spread on the back of the arms easier and more casual to do. So in order to do the toss, you've got your arm, the cards on the back of your arm, and from here what you're going to be doing is a sweeping motion, sort of like a swoop. And it's not going to be like a very vertical swoop or a very long drawn out thing. It's a very quick up. Your arm reaches about here and it's verticality, so it's not like vertical, it's a very low verticality, because then the momentum will actually bring the cards vertical. So you swoop up to about here, you drop the arm off so that the cards will come off the arm, and then as the cards are going vertical you'll turn your wrist over in order to grab them. Now I can't really do this in slowly, so I'm going to try slow motioning it for you, but essentially you're here, you turn up, and you drop them everywhere. So the reason that the cards actually went all over the place is because I had too much moisture on my arm. So my arm was a little bit warm, the cards stuck to the arm and they didn't come off the arm smoothly. So pro tip, you can't have any moisture, or your arm can't be too sticky or anything like that. Otherwise the cards will stick to the arm and they won't come off the arm evenly for you to be able to catch them. To show you how it's supposed to look now, you've got the arm spread along the back. The cards sort of go into your hand. In order for the catch, you've actually got your hand sort of like a claw, almost similar to how you'd catch a spring. They're spread out and you sort of catch the cards like this and bring in your thumb to close up the catch, to sort of make sure that they're all in the hand. So say the spread is like this, you sort of bring your hand in to catch that spread like this, and it should have enough room to sort of go into your hand. Don't think about it too much. The catch isn't the hardest part of this. It's more trying to get the spread to come off your arm evenly in order for you to catch it. Progression for this, I'd recommend actually starting small. So I would start at, say, your wrist level, so spread until your wrist right here, and then try spreading and catching, because you won't run into a problem with your wrist bending up too much as you're swooping, separating the cards. So this will be a good way to get you to practice that swooping motion to catch the cards. From here I would recommend going just over the wrist. So you go just over the wrist with your even spread, swoop up and try and catch. Try to maintain that wrist as locked as possible, because if you bend your wrist either way, it's going to disrupt the spread. And from there you can spread as far as you want. I usually go to about halfway up the arm before I do my spread. Before I do my toss. That's generally where I like to spread to, or that's where I feel the most comfortable spreading to when I toss and catch the cards. The next toss and whatnot we're going to be working on is a very simple one from doing your arm spread. So you've got your arm spread and you've got the cards turned over into your thumb. From here what you're going to be doing is tossing up the cards and just sweeping forward with your hand and grabbing the cards. This one's an easier toss and catch because you're just tossing the cards lightly off of the arm, and this hand's just coming in really quickly and grabbing the cards. You don't want to come in too quickly, because otherwise you're going to run into issues with the cards going everywhere, but you're essentially just tossing the cards up, bringing this hand forward, and grabbing the cards. So you're essentially just dropping this arm down and bringing this arm forward to catch the cards. That's probably your simplest arm toss / catch for doing it from the front side of the arm. The next arm spread / catch we're going to be doing from the front of the arm is just very similar in terms of the motion as to the back of the arm. So the back of the arm you're doing a quick sweeping motion and dropping your arm and turning your wrist. With this one you're doing a quick sweeping motion, except you're going to be catching the cards with this hand over top. So how it works is you spread out the cards and then you toss them up. The cards will go into the crotch of the thumb, and you're going to bring this hand down to collect the rest of the cards. This one's a little bit tricky in terms of getting the cards off the hand, because if you bend your hand at all, the cards will pretty much split apart and go everywhere, so you need to be sure that you've got your wrist locked in that spread position. So you toss the cards up and then you bring your arm right out of the way in order to ensure that as this hand comes down, this arm isn't getting in the way. The next arm toss variation I'm going to go over from the front of the arm is you've started spreading the cards. It's a similar thing where you're catching the cards here. The only thing is you stop the spread of the cards right about the wrist area. You're going to toss the cards up with your hand over top of the peak here, and the cards are going to come collect in your hand as you bring your hand down onto the cards. So you essentially toss up, bring your arm down, this hand comes in and collects the cards. So it's a very little toss, you're not tossing the cards up a lot, it's just a light toss and then you drop your arm. It's more like dropping the arm and this hand comes in and sweeps the cards up, so instead of it tossing too much. So it's just a light toss and then drop. The last front of the arm toss that I'm going to go over is where you've got the cards up and then you catch them in the same hand. So you've got the cards spread, on the arm, and then you catch it in the same hand as the arm. In order to do this, you don't have the cards spread all the way from your fingertips. I find it's just a little bit too difficult for me to do it, where I've got it spread along the fingertips to the forearm here, throw it up and catch it, just because my wrist bends too much. I'm sure people have done it, I just can't do it myself personally, so I'm just going to go over where you've got the cards spread along the forearm here, you toss them up and catch them. So in order to do that, as you spread your cards across the arm, essentially toss them up and forward a little bit, so it's less of a swooping motion and more like a forward toss up. So you have to bring your arm forward a little bit so that the cards leave, and then you can come back with your arm and grab the cards. So I think that was pretty much all the variations and the main tips I wanted to get across. Here are some extra pointers that I want to, give you guys just to make sure that it's a little bit easier when you're learning. So the first thing being practice over a bed if you can. It'll be a lot easier because the cards will go everywhere when you're first starting out on this move. So practice over a bed if you can, just because if the cards do drop, most of them will drop on the bed and it'll be easier to pick them up. Second, I don't think I stressed this enough, but you have to have a really even arm spread, because if you don't have a really good spread when you toss the cards up, they might not be even, air will get into the cards differently, the cards won't fall down evenly either, so it'll be harder to catch them. All in all, you need to have a really even spread on your arm in order for this to work well. Start practicing with different lengths on the arm. It's just going to be a little bit easier, so you have more control over it because the cards are less spread. Them being more clumped together will mean it's easier to catch. I wouldn't use a brand new deck because the cards are very slippery. It's going to be harder to keep them on your arm to keep an even spread. And so you want a deck that spreads nicely, but it's not too slippery because it'll be harder to catch the cards. And the last thing I would recommend for style points, when you're doing your arm spreads and tosses, to practice just tossing up as far as you can. It was really hard for me to get everything in frame and have a good angle on what I wanted to show you guys. So I would start practicing a little toss and then progressively increasing the tosses so that you can have a higher and higher toss. Now there are some tosses that require you to have like a very short toss, like this one here where you spread the cards to a peak, but you can still toss it a little higher than I think I showed it in the video. And it doesn't have to happen as quick. So try just feeling it out, practicing like light, small tosses first, and then going larger and larger for your style points and whatnot. With all the tosses, even the one that's along the forearm that you've turned over, you can toss it up maybe more vertically, so it gives it a little bit more oomph and kick to the flourish. Oh yeah, and the last tip I would like to give is that you don't always have to catch it in one hand. If you're doing a toss, and you feel like you're not really in control, it's fine to catch them in 2 hands when you're starting out. So I think those were all the last little tips and things that I can think of for successfully getting the arm spread. Once again, it's just going to take a lot of practice in feeling out the spread, but I hope this was a good resource for you to start learning it. If anyone has any other tips they'd like to leave in the comment section below, feel free to leave those. Other than that, that's been me for this week, guys, and I will catch you in the next one. Have a great day.